Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be answering the questions you guys asked on my Instagram. I just hit 30,000, so that was like super crazy. So I figured I'd answer some questions, help you guys get to know me a little bit more while I show some snippets of me working in my sketchbook and some pastel painting from my studio work. I never fully introduced myself in my first video, so hi, I'm Shay, if you couldn't tell already. I'm an artist and illustrator in Central Florida right now. I just graduated from the University of Central Florida, UCF, with my BFA in studio art. My main focuses right now are illustration and painting, and I hope to maintain both of those skills as I continue my art career and discover more of my artistic voice. I share a lot of my work on Instagram already, but I'm super excited to start another journey of sharing my work and process on YouTube. With this Q&A, I do want to preface that I'm just one opinion, one individual with preferences and ways of creating that works for me personally. I think everyone's different, and sometimes you have to experiment with different methods and means of making to find what works for you. It takes time. So if anything I say in this video ends up not working, don't get frustrated and feel like you can't be an artist just because the way I work isn't working for you. It takes time to develop those skills and that schedule of creativity and finding what creative schedule works for you with your artwork, but once you get it, it's super invaluable to your career or hobby or however you create art. Okay, with all the formalities aside, let's get into the Q&A. So the first question is from Colette Poire. How do you get over the fear of the first page? I think they mean like first page in a sketchbook, so I'll answer in that context. To be honest, I just go for it. With the sketchbook that I'm working on right now, I believe it's my 64th, so I've had quite a bit of practice of letting that fear go, just having fun doing whatever I want. I feel like a sketchbook doesn't have to be perfect or planned. I mean, you guys saw my sketchbook tour, and it was all over the place with notes and random planning for pieces. So I would just say pick some of your favorite things to draw and draw them. Don't be too hard on yourself. Sketchbooks can be a great place to express yourself and have fun. Or maybe waiting to fill out the first page until you've completely finished the sketchbook. You'd already be comfortable working in it. Then it could just be icing on top of an already beautiful cake. And if it still turns out wrong in your eyes, it's still icing and tastes delicious no matter what it looks like. All right, next question. That's 70 Soda, or as I know them, Soda, on Instagram asked, what are some things that motivate you to draw? I struggle getting the energy to finish even one sketchbook fully. Now, finishing a sketchbook is a completely different dish. We're talking the main meal, medium rare steak, seared salmon, mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, maybe a mimosa if we're feeling crazy, but personally, keeping a sketchbook for me is just like keeping a diary. Drawing and creating is just part of a natural habit and passion that I have. There are a few times when I don't want to draw, usually when I'm tired or haven't had my third cup of coffee yet, but when I hit a slump in creativity or motivation, or an art block or creative block arrives, I look at my favorite artists, enjoy favorite media. Lord of the Rings always hits the spot for me, or what typically always works for me, a surefire way for me, is just draw from life. Being present in the world, taking time to observe and record nature, animals, friends, my family, and interpreting the world around myself, how I see it, can jog ideas, foster a lot of appreciation for the things I see every day. I specifically love to do figure drawing. Breaking the human figure into simple shapes and colors is always so satisfying to me. Like, this red reminds me of an intense scene for some characters, and that could lead to drawing your own characters, imagining scenarios between them, creating worlds, and pretty soon you're sketching everyone and everything, and you're brimming with ideas. Treat the sketchbook as a sandbox. Wait, no, gotta keep the food metaphor. Treat it as a charcuterie of ideas, mixing and matching together to create a variety of flavors and textures. You got the cheese, you got the meats, you got the whatever else is on a charcuterie board, but that's what typically works for me. But everyone's different. Maybe it's going outside for a walk. Maybe it's taking a break from creating. Maybe it's cooking a favorite meal, talking to a friend, partner, or family member. Figure out what sparks that creative energy in yourself and just run with it. I Wants to Cry asks, favorite or most used supplies? That's a really tough question, I think, for me. For sketchbooks, I think Big Mechanical Pencil is my most used supply. Been using those mechanical pencils pretty much since I started keeping sketchbooks, but I love sketching with ballpoint pen or a juicy brush pen. When I'm working on final illustration pieces, I typically use my iPad, Clip Studio Paint, or traditional acrylic paint on canvas. I also love to use pastels for painting, but it's kind of messy and hard to store without smudging them. I would really like to get back into gouache or watercolor though. I'm always super inspired by Lil Star Nerd on Instagram and YouTube and their work all the time in their sketchbook with finished pieces in those mediums. But yeah, I think pencil, that big mechanical pencil, is probably the top tier medium that I use consistently. Dorian Pendragon asked any art mediums you tried and didn't like. Funnily enough, when I started painting with acrylics, I kind of hated it, but I was taking an intermediate painting class at the time and acrylic was the required material. So being forced to work with the medium, I kind of fell in love with it and got used to working with them. So I can't really think of any specific medium I don't like, but there is a print method I tried out last semester, the intaglio method, and trying to keep the amount of ink on the plate consistent for each press was a nightmare. But I'm sure if I was forced to use it, and I would get better and more comfortable and probably end up loving it too. Sun Falling Beetle asks, how do you take pictures of traditional art so it actually looks good when you post it? For me, for posting to social media, I typically use my iPhone. It depends on what phone or camera you have, but most iPhones and Androids, I think in the recent years, usually have pretty good cameras. Make sure you have natural light, that's number one, to get like a clear image and consistent lighting, possibly from a window or maybe like an overcast, cloudy part of the day. And you can make minor color adjustments in your phone, improve the contrast and kind of mess with it until it has an accurate color match to the original work. For more professional documentation, I think I would recommend using an actual digital camera, shooting in natural light or an overcast day, choosing a raw image setting, and then editing in Photoshop or any other photo editing software on a desktop with a color-corrected monitor to get an accurate depiction of the piece. Jagged Little Teacup asked, what was your first fandom and what made you fall in love with it? I know right now it's Patrick Bateman and other peeps, but what sparked it all? I think we'd have to go all the way back to middle school. Maybe like elementary school when it was like Webkins, because I collected like the plushies and I played the game a lot. But real true fandom, I would say, I think my first fandom was Lord of the Rings. I was reading the books and watching the movies as well as making fan art, which I should show sometime. That universe really inspired me to develop my own worlds and characters and truly made me fall in love with fantasy universes. The characters and the bonds between them were very impactful to me, along with the super epic visual setting and scenarios always inspire me to my work this day. Connecting back to Patrick Bateman, Red Fangs asks, you clearly like Patrick Bateman, but do you have one of those literally me characters you really relate to? If that's still Patrick, then congrats, and I will cancel my reservation at Dorsia. You can have my table. Well, thank you. Always wanted to go. Seems like a cool place. This is a really good question. Overall, I gotta stand with my fellow girl boss, Hannibal Lecter from NBC's Hannibal. Both meme-wise and somewhat serious side. I do not endorse murdering or eating people at all, but his motivations and very emotionally intense nature of his character is what I really vibe with. He's extremely creative in all his actions and really, intense with all his relationships. Just that extremity is not something I experience in my own life, but mentally sometimes it's just like, those intense feelings, yeah, been there. Other than that red flag choice, there are also characters like Will Byers from Stranger Things or Shrek. Shrek came out 3 days before I was born, so I feel like there's a kinship with that movie franchise. But yeah, the idea of originally wanting nothing more than solitude, but being brought out of that by amazing people I've met in like the past couple years and becoming more confident in myself is just like Shrek. And his journey throughout his story with Donkey taking him out of his swamp and leading him to Duolog. And you know how the story goes. Yeah, I don't know what to say. This is a funny username, but if you're reading this, you're a loser. Asked, what is some advice you have for beginner artists? I feel really overwhelmed by everything you have to learn to start off with, like anatomy, shading, likeness, etc. What's some advice on that? I completely understand where you're coming from. Even with drawing and painting for a couple years now, along with graduating from art school, I feel like I still have so much to learn and improve on skill-wise and finding my voice. And it's hard to know where to start, especially with so much content on the internet and so many resources. In a beginner sense, I would probably start off with drawing fundamentals first. There are a ton of resources on YouTube and online, and watching multiple artists and their different methods should help a lot. Just take it bit by bit and don't overwhelm yourself. Maybe choose something to focus on each month and fill out a sketchbook working on those skills. Like maybe 1 month you focus on drawing, like figure drawing. 1 month you focus on like still lives. 1 month you focus on color theory or just like experimenting with color. Maybe one you focus on like supplies, getting used to working with paint or getting used to using a digital software. Just break it up so it's easier and don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. Maybe just plan out 6 months. Each month you'll work on something different and then look back on what you've learned. And also finding some local beginner art classes in person. I feel like learning in person allows you to ask questions and get immediate feedback, and it also allows you to meet other beginner artists and work together and build relationships, because I know all the people that I've met through taking art classes I'm still friends with today, and without their feedback my work would not be where it is now. And I really value their opinion, and I value the relationships I've formed with them personally and creatively, because having community being an artist is extremely important. We have like going into the art field, I feel like is inherently lonely. It's just you and your work, you're working on stuff. You typically don't really get a community studio space like you do in school, and maintaining relationships and like places for critique or feedback is just super important to improving and just your mental health as an artist and as a creative. Having social outlets is very important. So like, especially as a beginner. So making sure that you're meeting people, possibly even getting a mentor to help you start out would be super helpful. I know that's not doable for everyone, but it definitely streamlines the process a bit, and working in a social setting, I feel like really launched my skills and launched the way I think about art making in general. Okay, the final question is from Excel Sierra, or Sierra as I know them. They're a great friend. How do you keep up your sketchbook habit? Like in the other answers, I've just built up a habit of drawing every day, so much so my day doesn't feel complete without drawing or making a little bit of art. Of course, I have intentional days as breaks, so I can keep on creating sustainably and not burn out. But I would say maybe creating like a short week challenge to draw in your sketchbook every day. Nothing too fancy, but just so you get used to opening up the book and sketching a bit. Then maybe take on a month challenge of drawing in your sketchbook every day. I think they say like once you do something for like 28 days, it becomes a habit. I don't know, something like that. I mean, I'm trying to break like a caffeine addiction, so trying to make it to that 28 days is difficult. Good luck if you're trying to do that, but just make sure you're working towards something and have a goal in mind to use the sketchbook for. I feel like having goals for a sketchbook and writing them out on the first page really help you fill it out and just keep you creating. You could do like a goal to get better at anatomy, or developing your own characters and worlds, or maybe even just drawing the things around you and practicing your observational skills. For me, sketchbooks keep my hand and skills active and polished to work on projects, to draft out ideas for finished pieces, or to have fun and develop my own characters and do fan art and all the silly stuff. And due to my job being making art and art-related content, along with naturally having built that habit of art making ever since like middle school of keeping sketchbooks, I just tend to draw a lot and fill sketchbooks regularly. But I think all in all, time is a huge part of a sketchbook practice. Not everyone has the luxury of a couple hours to devote to working in a sketchbook every day. And I've experienced this as well. Sketchbooks usually last around 2 to 3 months for me, but last semester with graduating, gallery show, and taking 17 credit hours, you bet I was only drawing in my sketchbook for only like a few days a week, maybe like 1 or 2, sometimes not even at all. But so it ended up taking almost half a year to complete due to my priorities and schedules being different. But I would just say, yeah, determine like a goal of what you're using the sketchbook for. Typically people are trying to use it to get better at artwork. Make specific goals and just work towards them every day or whenever you get a chance, and not be too hard on yourself. Yeah, and see where it goes from there. And hopefully you do it for long enough that it just becomes easier and easier over time, and then you have like 60 sketchbooks filled and you don't know where to put them. Most of it is like cringe, like Homestuck fan art, and yet you still love it and you love to look back on that. And it's like also like diary keeping, basically. You get to see like what's going on in your life, or new people that you met, or maybe you're moved at one point and you like were drawing like, I don't know, your new home and stuff like that. But I think sketchbook practice is very personal to everyone, and everyone has their own way of using it and like keeping up that habit. Some people only use it like once or twice a month for their projects, and some people use it every day like myself. But yeah, I would say it's really hard to build that habit up first, but once you get it, you're just cruising and you're making artwork. And that's it. That's the Q&A. Like I said, I'll be posting a part 2 next week with deeper questions about my art practice. But just wanted to say thank you so much for all the sweet comments and support on my first video. I didn't expect too much from posting it, but you guys blew my expectations away with gaining a couple hundred subscribers and a couple thousand views already. So that's ridiculous. Thank you so much. I can't wait to share more of my art with you guys and lifestyle as a growing small business and like growing my art business. And I hope you guys feel inspired to make your own work with me. But yeah, it's super encouraging. But at the beginning of this year, I didn't have a lot of hope in myself to achieve at the rate that I thought I would. I thought things would be a lot worse becoming like a full-time artist on like social media and being like a content creator with my art. But cool things are happening. I'm super excited. I'm getting to speak with some of my favorite artists online, meeting new people, and just making those connections. And it's super exciting, and I can't wait to show more and see what this year brings for my art and then my business in general. And hope you guys stay goofy. I'll see you guys in the next week's video, next part of the Q&A. And yeah, hope you have a good week until then, a good weekend. Happy Valentine's Day too. I hope you hugged a dog or cat or animal, or I don't know, ate something delicious or something like. But yeah, I'm stalling. Yeah, see you guys. Bye.